Scrambled Eggs Super. I don't like to brag, and I don't like to boast, said Peter T. Hooper. But speaking of toast, and speaking of kitchens, and ketchup and cake, and kettles and stoves and the stuff people bake, well, I don't like to brag, but I'm telling you, Liz, that speaking of cooks, I'm the best that there is. Why, only last Tuesday, when Mother was out, I really cooked something worth talking about. You see, I was sitting here resting my legs, and I happened to pick up a couple of eggs, and I sort of got thinking, it's sort of a shame that scrambled eggs always taste always the same. And that's because ever since goodness knows when, they've always been made from the eggs of a hen. Just a plain common hen. What a dumb thing to use with all of the other fine eggs you could choose. And so I decided that, just for a change, I'd scramble a new kind of egg on the range. Some fine fancy eggs that no other cook cooks, like the eggs of the ruffle-necked salamagooks. Salamagookses. Say, they should be good. So I went out and found some as quick as I could. And while I was lugging them back to the house, I happened to notice a twizzle-topped grouse in a tree down the street. And I knew from her looks that the egg and the egg of the salamagooks ought to mix mighty well, ought to taste simply super when scrambled together by Peter T. Hooper. So I took those eggs home and I frizzled them up, and I added some sugar, 2/3 of a cup, and a small pinch of pepper, and also a pound of horseradish sauce that was sitting around. And also some nuts. Then I tasted the stuff, and it tasted quite fine, but not quite fine enough. To make the best scramble that's ever been made, a cook has to hook the best eggs ever laid. So I drove to the country, quite rather far out, and I studied the birds that were flitting about. I looked with great care at a mock-noodled finch. I looked at a beagle-beaked bald-headed grinch. And also, I looked at a shade-roosting quail, who was roosting right under a lasso-lax tail. And I looked at a spritz and a flannel wing jay, but I just didn't stop. I kept right on my way because they didn't have eggs. They weren't laying that day. Then, suddenly, boy, up that hill a short space, birds, they were laying all over the place. Great happy families with uncles and cousins, all laying fine, strictly fresh eggs by the dozens. Why, I have a scrambled more super than super. Scrambled eggs super de-duper de-booper, special deluxe a la Peter T. Hooper. I picked out the eggs in a most careful way. I only picked those that I knew were grade A. I only took eggs from the very best fowls, so I didn't take eggs from the twiddler owls, because I knew that the eggs of those fellows who twiddle taste sort of like dust from inside a base fiddle. I went for the kind that were mellow and sweet, and the world's sweetest eggs are the eggs of the queet, which is due to those very sweet trout which they eat. And those trout, well, they're sweet because they only eat wogs, and wogs, after all, are the world's sweetest frogs. And the reason they're sweet is, whenever they munch, it's always the world's sweetest bees that they munch. And the reason no bees can be sweeter than these, they only eat blossoms of beesnut trees. And these beesnut blossoms are sweet, and that's why I got several eggs from the queet. But I passed up the eggs of a bird called a squirrel, who's sort of a stork, but with fur like a poodle. For they say that the eggs of this kind of stork are gooey like glue and stick to your fork, and the yolks of these eggs, I'm told, taste like fleece, while the whites taste like very old bicycle grease. The places I hiked to, the roads that I rambled, to find the best eggs that had ever been scrambled. I hunted newbirds along wild table trails, through gullies and gulches, down dunes and dales. I wiggled my way and I crawled at a creek through a forest of ferns that was 40 miles deep. And I mushed through the brush till I found a fine glitter whose eggs are as big as a pinhead, no bigger. Then I went for the eggs of a long-legged quack. Now this quack, well, she's built just a little bit wrong. Her legs are so terribly, terribly long that she has to lay eggs 20 feet in the air and they drop with a plop to the ground from up there. So unless you can catch them before the eggs crash, you haven't got eggs, you've got long-legged hash. Eggs, I collected 302. I needed still more, and I suddenly knew that the job was too big for one fellow to do, so I telegraphed his friends near the soul, who was 10 miles or so just beyond the North Pole. And they called him jumping the cabin which is sort of a big sea on top. So they sailed out to sea to go look at the price, which is sort of a bird which lays eggs on the ice, so they grabbed the tool which is known as a switch, because those eggs are too cold to be touched without which. And while they were sitting those eggs, I got word of a bird that something almost unheard of. It's hard to believe, but this bird called the elf lays eggs out 3 times as big as herself. How the elf ever learned to do it, I never found out. I found that egg quick, and I managed to get it down to the nest and over the kitchen along with the rest. But I didn't stop there, because I knew it was named with a single 5 sums, control, 5 times of sums, 5 enough, and some thumbs. And some of those might just catch 1,000 or so, and I could eggs in the air, much to the and the I need more helpers, and so for assistance, I called the fellow, Ali, August, and Ali, as soon as I picked up a small basket, started alone to find the sea crabs and jacks, and not true, egg, or not true cuckoo. Now these not true cuckoos are better small cats. But these not true cuckoos have lots of big pouts. They hide in the sides with wild streaks, and chat is like they stab their cheeks for their gathering beaks. But Ali, great Ali, finds with eggs, I knew you do. For example, sir, doing special lots of Peter T. Hooper. In the meantime, of course, I see the eggs of the 3 ash. They're hard to reach, so on top of a ham, sham. They have every 5 6 6 6 along their brains. First time the crane was nest, close 6 6 7. So we get those eggs with tiny roots, from the movies. And after the quacks, we line up with practice. Then I went to this is us, but this is not us, and seeing us, it's my turn to success. But I know that egg I got was, it was us. Now I need the egg on Marcy's neck, so she's taking the death, and I'll be the name of Marcy's neck, because that's she must sort of my parents, she's going to be so of course, we also have the then I first version of the eggs, that's the egg most cheese, and it is the so I the next, I need the test, I still want to see the egg of the test. I recently heard so fast, all through the and now